Welcome back to Yellow Turbans Abridged. Last time we had some back and forth in the south where we defeated Jialong's army and took a bit of territory from the Han Empire, but overall didn't achieve much. We took out a big army in the north belonging to Dongmin in a nice defence, but the most important thing was that we distracted Lu Bu with our anding antics, and now our main force is at the capital and they've sallied out, so we have a chance to take down their garrison. The map had some shallow river on it again, so I thought let's deploy behind it. Not convinced this actually gives you any real advantage, but it seems like a good idea. There is some trouble on our side, as you can see. Stuff's surprisingly on fire, which isn't going to help. Plus, there are some locals here, some peasants in these little fields, who don't seem to take kindly to us. I think these guys don't understand that we're the pro-peasant party in China. They've clearly got no class consciousness, and we're just going to have to kill them. Maybe they were devout Confucians or something. So that's annoying. We did actually lose some men to the peasants attacking us, and indeed to the fires, because unlike in previous games, the fire actually can do damage to units that's near it. It's not just a visual effect anymore, which I quite liked, although that said it does basically no damage, so you can't do fire attacks or anything like that. But you can see here some of our guys are debuffed, they're taking damage because they're standing on fire. As for why everything's on fire, well, we can't go into that mystery, it just is. It might be because, like in Attila, some units had a raiding trait that made them set buildings on fire when they were nearby, and these bushes etc. are being considered buildings and our guys are being considered raiders, and that's why it's happening, but who knows. As for the fight, we begin as we usually do with some horse archer harassment. Managed to draw some cav over towards them on the flank and take them out. And then I decided to be incredibly cheeky. I got two of my horse archer units to just charge at the enemy army. I thought maybe I can get the enemy into melee without their archers noticing me, but they certainly did notice me and I started taking loads of arrows. I thought I was going to be punished for this, but just somehow I didn't. We saw this before with these horse archers, back when Pang De was pursuing them in the first big battle and they just wouldn't die. For some reason here, the archers don't take them out, and we even rout some of the enemy's archers. Despite being in a really disadvantageous situation, we just get away with it. Absolutely incredible. And actually it's even better because all of the enemy archers aggroed onto my horse archers. So from now on I just led them off towards the edge of the map and they will not be participating in the main fight. My men are on fire again, clearly I'm not paying enough attention, but it doesn't matter that much. The first thing to hit us are the enemy's cavalry units that charge across the river and into my spearmen here, not so much of a concern. Things are a bit worse though just down the line, where they've got some heavier cav and I've got lighter spears. Plus I'm moving as the enemy hit me, and if it's like in Attila, you take more damage from being charged if you are charging yourself, and these peasant spearmen do not last very long against cav. I've mentioned before I'm questioning whether they are actually spearmen. I think they do get a bonus against cavalry despite not having spear animations. But anyway, our right flank breaks immediately. However, I did have some heavy spears as my reserve, so I just put them there instead and it was fine in the end. Other heavy spears are driving the enemy away on the left. Gongdu's taken his cav across the river to take out these archers who were dangerously close to actually participating in the battle, and our third officer, Gongsha Yuan, is going off to kill the rest of the enemy's archers along with our horse archers. Meanwhile, Jiang Kai brings all of the cav to begin encircling the enemy army. There's a general brawl going on the front lines. It's really messy, so the word front line is a little bit of a misnomer, but we are going to be in position to encircle them nice and easy. The archers at the back there are all screwed now that Gongsha's got them into melee, and here comes Jiang Kai to try and seal some deals in the main fights. All we need to do is rout one of the enemy blobs here and there, because once they're down we'll have the numbers to win. And there you go, we take out a couple of units that are weak against cav. Right there, they are routing but probably won't get killed, as we've discussed before, but it doesn't matter, just need to focus on surrounding everything else to end this battle. We do have the ranged and cavalry advantage, so there's nothing the enemy can do, but they don't know that quite yet. Looks like I'm shooting my own men here, so I'm doing them a favour, but hopefully that was contributing more to winning than us taking friendly fire damage. And with that, pretty much everything chain routes at about this point. The enemy give up, which they probably should have done a while back. Chase the enemy around for a bit, because I thought I might be able to kill their commander, but in the end I thought I can't be bothered, and just ended the battle. Only a close victory apparently. The game's hitting me again with this close victory stuff. Everything for Gong Du has been a close victory, but We lost like 10 to 20% of our men, the enemy lost like 80 to 90% with similar starting numbers. So in fact that's going to be a very decisive victory, and now the capital is barely defended. We are in the money. We can also get a bit of money right here by ransoming back this officer. It will mean that she's still in the garrison, but there's nothing there, so it's just going to be an auto-resolve anyway. Plus we can hit the old recruit thing here to mean our losses are mitigated. It's probably not going to be that bad. I think if I ransomed them, which I was considering here, there would still be some more men in the garrison, which would make the auto-resolve a little bit less favourable. Doesn't really matter either way in that case, I don't think. However, before we can go on to see that delicious auto-resolve, we're now going to have to be punished, because the whole reason we could do that was because Lu Bu has been distracted, but he's distracted by coming to kill some of my men, and here he is to do it. We're in trouble, but we are defending a town, so there is some exploit potential here. We already saw a pretty nice victory get pulled off at this very town before, thanks to our towers. The problem here is that the enemy decide to counter our exploit by just doing the thing you're meant to do, set the towers on fire. Not really sure why this didn't happen before, because we're facing the same kinds of units. I guess there's something in the AI's intelligence level that has to be turned on for it to bother doing this, maybe because it's got a high level commander. It does this? Not quite sure. Maybe the game was updated actually because I'm playing it before it was released. In this case, that might actually explain it. But yes, they're going to set our towers on fire before they attack, which of course hugely reduces the exploit potential and means we are just going to have to fight them with our units, and that's not really the best of prospects. Here with the western approach though, we do have some tower exploits because there are so many towers here along this one road that once the enemy get through the first layer and charge in, there are just some more. They don't wait until they've destroyed all of them or anything. So we are going to be hitting the enemy with bolts and taking out their men one by one. However, if the battlefronts aren't stable, then even that's not really possible, and they are not very stable. As you can see, one of our entrances is undefended, and this one was defended but has been quite heavily compromised. You can see what I tried to do here, putting my guys who didn't have shields just around a corner so they wouldn't get charged into front on by cav or anything. Not sure if that really made any difference. We have one reserve unit there ready to try and hold the enemy off from that direction. But in the north of the town, we've got a massive problem. Lu Bu himself is here. He managed to get through an undefended entrance and is now coming at us from behind. The arrows are raining down upon him. But even here in records mode, he is somewhat invincible. The arrows appear to just bounce off him, and he does make it to my archers, who are now royally screwed. This is as screwed as you can be in the Three Kingdoms world fighting Lu Bu. I've got some heavy spearmen, potentially the perfect counter, who get in there to fight. But actually they just didn't really do anything. I guess Lu Bu's superhuman stats do carry through to his unit of generic Shilia and Cav, because they just wouldn't die either. The only thing we have going for us is that we are fighting under towers, and now and again we're getting kills. Not that often, based on how many towers we're firing at them, which makes me think there is some kind of armor save against towers, or perhaps more likely it's the missile evasion stat that some units have, which gives you a chance to not take damage from missiles. Lu Bu, I think, has quite a lot of missile evasion, being really overpowered in general, so he's getting away with it. Elsewhere his men are being killed by towers, but it doesn't really matter because Lu Bu is just going to kill everyone basically. Our general goes in there to fight him and is immediately being absolutely annihilated. I don't know if we're killing any of his men with our own infantry, but the towers are gradually chipping away at his bodyguards. He's unbreakable, so killing all of his bodyguards doesn't help if we can't kill him, but there is still the potential here that the towers could hit him if we just hold him in place, and that's the thought. I'm just sacrificing units here to see what we can do with that. And over here, back where the enemy's main blob was coming in, we have actually achieved something. We've taken out tons of enemies. They've taken extreme attrition to get this far, and finally we're starting to see some routes, including their officers. So we're actually on the verge of some kind of victory on this particular front, with one of the enemy's main blobs getting taken out. But Lu Bu has killed everything that I threw at him. He's now down to just a few men, and the towers are still chipping away. But we haven't found a way to get rid of Lu Bu himself, and that's going to be the main problem. He's about to take our victory point right there, and the rest of our men are on their last legs. The balance bar is too far in the enemy's favour, and the settlement destruction reduces your morale as well. It's like in Attila, where as buildings burn down, it debuffs your units for whatever reason. and as a result we get a chain rout, and that's a valiant defeat. So no more time to see if the towers would have got us that cheeky kill on Lu Bu. He's gone off his rocker by the looks of things. But we did achieve something with this fight. We didn't kill their officers, but we took out a couple of full units, and a lot of the other units are damaged, so that's something. It's a shame to lose Huanglong Fanping. We weren't just losing garrison units, we lost actual units there, so it is a bit more of a loss than it would have been with our previous Anding defense. And now, with Lu Bu sitting in the town, there was this thing here saying that his units are recuperating and they're going to come back, and I was like, wait, what? They're dead, how are they recuperating and they're just going to come back? And this is a mechanic that I essentially discovered, well here in theory, but in more detail later on. You can replenish even units that are dead. Unlike in previous Total Wars, the replenishment mechanic has been extended, and I'm not a huge fan of this. It has some interesting effects which we'll see later on once this mechanic really shoved itself in my face and got pretty annoying. Anyway, here we are at the capital. Here's the auto-resolve that we were looking for. That means that Chang'an is now mine. It says here that the Emperor has abdicated. So I thought, okay, maybe that's what I wanted. What I thought we'd be doing is taking control of the Emperor and then getting him to give us the Han Dynasty's territory, the Han Empire faction's territory, which is what the tooltip suggested it would do. But I think that this only works for normal factions and the tooltip just doesn't change for the Yellow Turbans, etc. It's just misinformation here. Because, long story short, nothing happens, not at first and not later on. Taking Chang'an actually didn't achieve anything, so this has all been a massive disappointment and a waste of time, because it took me a long time to do this, and I gave up on capturing a whole load of territory instead, and that would have been the better option in retrospect. So that's a shame, especially because you do have to pay extra, in theory, to pay as the Yellow Turbans. Having things like this happen, there's no unique event or anything, or no advantage to capturing the capital. It's just a shame. I certainly expected something to come of this and the effort that I put into it. I was able to improve our situation a bit by using diplomacy. One thing I did was get peace with Yu Minshang, the faction formerly known as Jialong, the guys we were fighting in the past. So now our southern border is more secure, and I also noticed here that the Han Empire is willing to get peace with us. Maybe this is a result of us taking the capital, or maybe we're just so strong now, we've just got a peace deal normally. Not quite sure, I suspect it's the latter option. But yes, I'm going to take this peace deal, because now less of our exposed border has someone we're at war with on it, which should make things easier, not that the Han Empire was actually attacking us. We're going to focus on Liujiang in the south, and there's a nice target to the southeast that we'll go for right now. We actually need military access with Yu Minshang to hit some of his other territories, but we'll negotiate that sort of thing later on. As for Gongdu, thought we might as well go take the other Chang'an settlement, the Jade Mine, which is just up the road. There are only these two places in the Chang'an Commandery, so it's a nice easy one to get. This mine was surprisingly heavily defended. I could auto-resolve and take a win, but I wanted to do this with minimal casualties, and it had an interesting looking map, so I thought I'd check this one out manually. We're attacking some kind of mountain. Indeed, it is a mine of some kind. Many of the places do have special maps that somewhat represent what the quote-unquote settlement is supposed to be. It's defended with towers, but as we can see here, the tower has a blind spot, and I'm able to use fire arrows to take out one tower in particular right as the battle starts, using some guerrilla deployed men, one of Gongdu's abilities there. As for the other towers, we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way, that is stand there and get shot by them. I think the hill kind of worked to our advantage here because the tower wasn't hitting us very well. Maybe it technically didn't have line of sight or something, maybe line of sight's calculated from its base. So we just set them on fire, now we run away and wait for them to be destroyed. Once enough towers are down that it's safe for us to advance, we do so. The enemy have no ranged units, so we'll want to stand around before we attack, just killing what we can. Some units stood there and just took the arrows, others did the perhaps more correct thing. They went up the hill and hit at the top of the mountain where I can't shoot them. For some reason the ground is changing colour here, that's why I'm just confusingly sitting here looking at nothing. Every time I press the space bar, the ground turns brown for some reason, not really sure what's up with that. Anyway, after a while I start advancing units into the mine area, and seeing this, the enemy charges down to attack me. We're fighting uphill, but that kind of works in our favour here, because it makes it really easy for our men to shoot over the tops of each other, for our archers to shoot over our melee troops that is, and hit the enemy. Up another channel I sent a bunch of our melee cav, including Gong, and you get things like this. We slam into some saber militia and their unit just disappears in seconds. They are super weak against these kinds of attacks. So there we go, we clear through them and can continue up the hill. At the same time I can grab Jiang Kai and go back down another part of the hill to rear attack this big group of swords that's fighting with my melee inf. And that's pretty much going to be the end of them. They don't rout right away, but they rout eventually, and the chain rout will make things better and better. We're going to end up though with the annoying situation that I keep highlighting just because I keep finding it annoying, where your men are really unaggressive. We have them surrounded and we could just charge forwards and take them out, but it just doesn't quite work like that. Eventually everything is routing and the battle ends though, so we can get out of here. And on a settlement assault it doesn't matter how many enemies you kill because they just disappear after the battle. So that's that then. We took the Jade Mine, indeed with negligible casualties. So if we need to fight again anytime soon, we can, and we can just march off with Gong to do something else, basically saving us some time. We're getting pretty rich now that we own Chang'an Commandery, but we also have a food deficit because the capital takes a whole ton of food to upkeep. The amount of food a commandery needs is based on the level of its town section, so once you're a city or above you have to have a food income to keep it going. In this case, all we need to do is find some food somewhere else because it's just calculated across your territory. So if we storm in over here to Liu Jiang's farmlands and occupy them, then we'll suddenly be getting a load more food. We only have a slight advantage in the battle that's come up, but I auto-resolved it, as we saw, because I just couldn't be bothered to fight it. And broadly speaking, taking losses doesn't actually matter in any of the Total War games that have replenishment in them, because you just get your men back afterwards and it's much, much faster in real life to auto-resolve. It only really matters if you think you're going to fight immediately after this and you need your men to still be alive and you can't wait 1 or 2 turns or what have you. Anyway, the point is, we took Chengdu's farmland, and now we have plenty of food, so that whole economy thing is solved. And I guess I'll mention food again if it ever becomes a problem, but generally it's easy enough to manage. I thought I'd take this chance to look at what our empire looks like. By default, our territory is shown as being black and our neighbours are grey, which makes things a bit difficult, but switching to this view, you can see the green area is us. We've got this really horribly shaped territory, nice and hard to defend, but its left flank is the edge of the map, so that's pretty secure actually. It's kind of hard to round ourselves out and form stable borders because of where the mountains are in this case, but we will work to make our territory less weird in the future. Lu Bu has appeared on our border up in Wudu, so that could be trouble, because if he really wants to, he could rampage through our pretty much undefended territory and take a load of stuff. We need Gong Du to get back there. He's our best hope of actually stopping him from doing anything. Can't get there now, so we're not going to be able to definitely defend our border. Could use the march stance to make things a bit safer and get there quicker, but I want to replenish as I move, and you have to use the normal stance to do that. So we get marching, and in the meantime I'm going to throw a general in Lu Bu's path. I'm going to throw this guy into the Wudu Silk Trader. There's also this thing here where you can hire, I guess, mercenaries. It's the equivalent of the mercenary system in the older games, where you can get some random units, not under a general basically. A few extra units that are really expensive. Not really worth it in this case. I'm not even sure why I bothered making this general in retrospect, because I'm just putting some more stuff in front of Lu Bu so it's slightly harder for him to attack us, but he's still going to have a massive advantage right here when he does attack the Silk Trader. It is though a place that has towers, so this is another chance to perhaps get a lucky shot and make something of this battle, so I did fight it manually. Don't get your hopes up though for this one, because the enemy did do the thing they did in the previous battle. They bothered to set the towers on fire, and unlike at Anding, we've only got one layer of towers, so once they destroy the first couple of towers it's kind of over, and then it's just their infantry fighting my inferior infantry and we're in trouble. In the end, it wasn't the towers that really made this battle worthwhile. It was the fact that I did manage to use some of my cav to take out enemy arch units. We got outside of the fort as the enemy went in, and then took out isolated archer units, In some cases also, their infantry and cavalry units even were so weak from the previous fight that we only needed to kill a few of them to technically destroy the unit, because for a unit to be killed it just has to be below a certain threshold. So if a unit comes in with 10 men and you kill one and the threshold was 9, then you've killed the whole unit. So we don't have to do that much proportional damage to the enemy to make the game's rules wipe out a huge portion of their units. So yes, the fighting goes on for a while, but we are just absolutely annihilated. The fight ended in an interesting way. Our men ended up outside the fort just standing around and eventually got routed by stacking morale debuffs as the fort burned down. It made me think though that there could be a nice exploit for defending a settlement like that, which I'm actually going to try out in the next part. We'll come back to that and I'll explain it at the time. Here's the result. And as I alluded to, it looks like we destroyed tons of enemies. Loads of their units got wiped out, and that was just because they were on the verge of being wiped out already, thanks to that previous battle. So after 2 defences, Lu Bu's army is starting to look quite weak, and he actually didn't occupy the settlement, he just sacked it, so we still get to keep it, and our garrison will already have started to respawn. We started a new war there with Sai Mao. I think he's somewhere to our southeast, but I don't really know. We'll see if he shows up. And then this happened. I was really annoyed by this. Lu Bu has vassalized the Han Empire. I felt like the game was rubbing this in my face after I fully expected to be vassalizing the Han Empire myself and went to great effort to try and achieve it as the game instructed. Not only did I not get it, but my rival Lu Bu gets it for some reason. So this is outrageous. This is now personal. It is time for Gong to get out there and pursue Lu Bu.